I'm Olivia, this is Mila, and this is my recommendations channel. Now, I was going to do book reviews originally. That was my original plan. Was if I do book reviews, I can hi. If I do book reviews, I can monetize my desire to read and use that to buy more books. And then I was like, maybe I can do travel writing and do, like travel videos, and then I can use that to pay for more travel. And basically, well, with the book review thing, I don't really read. I mean, I do, but it's more mental. It's more I see what's going on. I don't necessarily see faces, but I still see the action. And so it's hard to really think about whether I'm reading and what I'm reading and that I'm reading when I'm reading. The only things that remind me that I'm reading are when something's really delicious, when there's like a particular turn of phrase that just really throws me out of it because it's so good. And when I'm thrown out of what I'm reading because it's so bad. And I really don't want to have to go out of my way to read things that are so bad so that I can talk about the writing. So, recommendations. We're going to talk about things that I enjoyed reading, why I enjoyed reading them, whether you'd enjoy reading them. So today we're going to do a classic, Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This is one of my oldest books in my library. Bought it for 25 cents from at a bookstore, at a book sale at my library when I was a kid. It had a little green dot indicating that it's over 50 years old. This edition's from like 1915. It's like 109 years old. Nothing like anything that's going to be worth anything because of the dots and they colored on the, whoever owned this book before me colored on the little pictures and things. But still very valuable to me. I've had this book since like the late 70s or early 80s. So, see, the binding's falling apart. I don't care. It's beautiful. I love it. So, Little Women has been made into movies. It's been made into TV, little dramas. It's made in cartoons. It's a classic. If you haven't read it, you should, because again, it's a classic and it's such a good book. Basics. It's the story of the March sisters, Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, and they're all very different young ladies. I don't remember their ages at the beginning of the book. They're like 17, 16, 15, and 14. Like 17, 16, 12, and 11 or something at the beginning. Anyway, and so this is all series of stories about, it's basically little vignettes about their life. I don't think there's really a through storyline to the book, because it's just, they grow up, they get married, most of them grow up and get married. But I'm not going to bother worrying about spoilers. The book's 155 years old. If you don't want to be spoiled for Little Women, stop the video now, and we'll see you later. Go back, go read it, come back, we'll do this again. So the biggest thing about the books, of course, is the difference in the personalities among the sisters, and that they love each other despite their differences, and they have interpersonal conflicts and everything else except for Beth, who's too good for this world. And, she's the one who's too good for this world. So she eventually, as everybody knows, she's the one who passes away eventually. They live in what's referred to as genteel poverty. They don't have any money, but they still manage to have a housekeeper. And they, have to they have to like mend their clothing rather than getting new clothes. They size things down for the younger sisters and things because they don't have the money for the fabric for the new clothes. They make all their own clothing. Jo, who's the author insert for Alcott, wants to be a writer. Author insert for the author. Meg just wants to, she would like to have money and things, but mostly she just wants happiness. Beth just is perfect. So, and Amy wants to be rich. She wants money. She wants the glamorous lifestyle. She wants to be beautiful and adored and worshipped. And she wants to be, she would, if we were writing a new version of it, she'd want to be the Instagram influencer type. And as fate would have it, Amy also has a great deal of artistic talent. So she has something that to offer that rarefied world that she aspires to. Um, Throughout the thing, Amy gets upset about Joe's writing and destroys her book, and there's a big rift there for a long time. They eventually do make up, um, and that's a, there are people like, because there's no back, there was a way to back up your book back then. When your book was destroyed, it was destroyed. You had to start over. Um, but and there's a lot of, at one point money's real tight, and Joe, who's described as being homely, the one thing that's beautiful about her is her hair. She cuts it all off and sells it for wigs to make some money, and it's real sad and heartbreaking. Her father, at the beginning of the book, her father is a pastor. He's a chaplain with the Union Army in the Civil War. He does come home. He's sick for a while. There's a lot of drama about that. Like I said, it's just little vignettes about their life, all leading to adulthood and things like that. Apparently, Alcott's got some more exciting books that are supposedly better written, but this is classic for a reason. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is the way the romantic storylines ended. Because early in the book, they make friends with the little boy next door named Theodore Lawrence. Now, I guess the word that, because Ted at the time was a name for Edward and not for Theodore. And so so he has it in his head that the only nickname available for his name would be Dora, which is a girl's name, like Dora the Explorer. And so they call him Laurie, which is short for his last name of Lawrence. And Laurie and Joe are like this. They're thick as thieves. He participates in all the games and stuff like that because Joe is his best friend. Now, there are people who are very upset that Joe and Laurie don't end up. There's a whole book where they end up together, and I've got the book. I haven't read it yet. I think I have it. I think I have it as an ebook or as an audiobook. I'll have to check. I have not even thought about how I'm going to do ebooks and audiobooks. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I've read, my Goodreads has me having read 400 books. Not all of them are going to make it to this channel. Some of them are things where I'm like, no, never again. And some are like, yes, oh my gosh, I can't wait to recommend that book. So, a lot of people are upset that Joe and Laurie don't end up together. And that Laurie ends up with Amy and Joe ends up with Professor Bear. And now, a little bit of trolling on behalf of Alcott. Everybody wanted Joe and Laurie to end up together, and Alcott was like not going to do it. She might have been willing to do it if people hadn't been writing to her going, yes, because these are actually two different books. Little Women is one book, and the second half book is actually a second book called Good Wives. You see that? I don't know if it actually has a division. Yeah. 201 pages are the first book, and 230 pages are the second. So it's roughly 50-50. So I hope I didn't just dox myself. I might have to. There's a nameplate in here. I put it on the wrong page because of the pictures, and I'm hoping it didn't show my name. I'll have to look at it later. Anyway, so something's got Mila's attention. So she was kind of trolling her writers in that year between the release of the two books. People were writing to her going, please, let Joe and Laurie end up together. Please let them end up together. She was not going to do it. So she ended up with, like I said, Laurie ended up with Amy, and Joe ended up with Professor Bear. I think she sold it, personally. I mean, I may be in the minority. My mom was very upset. was very upset that Joe and Lori didn't end up together. But ultimately, I mean, Lori's got the fancy lifestyle and the money and everything else, and Professor Bear is a perfected version of Alcott's own father. Alcott's father, this genteel poverty they lived in, was a reflection of their real life. They had no money because their father was a believer in, like, I think it was transcendentalism. He was like very big into, you know, um, I'm not a philosopher, but um, you know, he was a philosopher, and he like opened up like this school, and it failed miserably, and yet, um, as we'll see when I get to Joe's Boys and Little Men, Professor Bear opens the school, and this one succeeds. And I think in some level, Professor Bear is a perfected version of her father. Is My mother was always very angry with Bronson Alcott for not taking financial care of his family like he should have. And um, the Joe inherits her wealthy aunt's house, and so they've got a place to run their school for boys free of charge. And I think that that's a big thing. But also, you know, her I suspect her father's the one who pushed her into writing. I would not be surprised at all if she wrote Little Women based on her own life and her adventures with her siblings and things, her sisters and things, based on her father's urging, because Joe becomes a writer, and Joe writes realistic stories about her family and her friends and things like that, based on the urging of Professor Bear. I really think there's like this kind of weird Electra complex thing going on, but in a way, you know, I can see the appeal. Meanwhile, Amy and Lori meet up in Europe, and Amy's an adult. They hadn't seen each other for a while, and Amy's an adult now, and she's studying art, and she's becoming an artist, and she's getting all the things she wanted, and she's blossoming into who she always wanted to be. And Lori finds it attractive. I mean, I think people being who they are is very attractive. And I think that she has grown into a person who's more compatible, not only with Lori as a person, but Lori's lifestyle. I don't think the person Joe grows into would do well with the person Lori grows into. Does that make sense? It's, you know, I mean, I was always like, you should be friends primarily, and, you know, a friendship that grows into a romance is a beautiful thing. In some of these books, that's exactly what happens. Percy Jackson. Hashtag Percy Jackson. And so, and that can be really great, but sometimes not so much. And I think that I really do think that they work, I like the ending romances, but like I said, I do want to read that Joe and Lori book and see if they can convince me that maybe I was right. Because when I was a kid, I was definitely on the same page as my mom. But as an adult, as a 57-year-old woman, I'm like, I think I like the way things worked out in the books better. But we'll see how I feel about that Joe and Lori book. If I do end up liking it, I will use the card thing that you put in the, yeah, I'll use one of those probably and link to it here. I think that's all I have to say about it today. I covered the romances, I covered the basics, I covered Beth's death because she's too pure for this world. Yeah, it's a classic for a reason. Go read it. If you've read it and you enjoyed it, let me know. If you read it and you didn't enjoy it, also let me know. I've also read all of the work with me here. All of the Anne of Green Gables books. They will be along eventually as well. I have not reread them as part of this project though, so when we get to them, we'll get to them. So it's a classic for a reason. As always, if this has reminded you of something, that's why I mentioned the Anne of Green Gables books, because I could just hear you saying, "Well, the Anne of Green Gables books." Yes, I've read them, love them. We'll get to them. But anything else, if this reminds you of something that you think I'd enjoy reading, let me know in the comments, and like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon, and I'll see you in the next one. I don't think my dad's awake yet. I think I might be able to fit a third video in this morning. Let me know. I'll see. Talk to you later.